Welcome to the Empowerment Show with Melissa Heisler. Every week, discover new personal choices with practical, inspiring guides. And now, here's Melissa.
Welcome to the Empowerment Show. I'm Melissa Heisler, stress reduction expert at It's My Life, and it is your life. Live it. Today, I am thrilled to be talking to Sue Bock about helping women navigate difficult life transitions. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thank you, Melissa. I am so happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here, and I know there's going to be such great information that you share with us today because you help women through a multitude of different transitions, from being sandwiched between caretaking their children and their parents, being empty nesters, dealing with menopause. But one of the subjects that you work with that's very near and dear to my heart is how do you start life over after breast cancer? And as a survivor, Sue, how do you approach going back to life as usual after cancer?
That's a good question, Melissa. And I actually consider myself a thriver.
Instead of survivor. I like that.
Surviving's not good enough. It's, yes, taking your life back and taking the initiative to, one, maybe make lifestyle changes, and two, making attitude changes. Because when you go through any kind of cancer, any kind of chronic illness or something like that, people kind of, I don't think they mean to, but they have a tendency to treat you different. And I wanted to be normal no matter what. And because I was coached during the time that I was going through breast cancer treatment, and also I was a coach at the same time, it really made a difference. It made a difference to me, and hopefully it helped my husband because he was so stressed out. And I also gathered this knowing that I didn't need any more information from all the multitude of information that I could find. And you reach kind of a tipping point where if you have any more information, it's just going to drive you crazy. So I was walking down one of the hallways at the hospital that I work, and I was going to stop in and see the breast cancer navigator because she had become my friend and actually a coworker. And I go, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm done. I don't need any more information. I just have me, and that's all I need. One discovery I did make is that how many people want to support you and how many people loved me. And before that, even as a coach, but I'm human, it was like, well, that old nursery rhyme of nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms and die. and it was totally not true, and I knew that wasn't true. But through the breast cancer recovery period, I just felt so much love from everybody. A lot of healing, and it was just wonderful.
I think that's one of the beautiful benefits, if we can talk about benefits of going through the process. I know a friend of mine who's going through it right now, and I see her post on Facebook all the time. She's like, I need a ride to the doctor. Who's up for it? And there's like all these responses, all these people willing to jump on board. She's got her team that are really going through this process with her. And I think in going through a life or death situation like this, everything becomes so much more real, and we really get to what's important about life.
Yeah.
And I think people realize and make time for those people that they really love and care for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so important to have that team.
And I love what you said too about how it helped your self-esteem to recognize that. I know there are some other people going through illnesses as well, and they're shutting off from everyone. You know, they hide their illness and they don't want to make a big deal about it. But I think they're missing out on that support, on receiving, you know, I don't know if they don't think they're good enough, you know, or worthy to receive, or they don't want to bother people, or whatever the reason is. But I think that's one of the, creating that community around your loved one during this time is so important. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I had a coworker who had gone through breast cancer about a year before me, and I asked her for advice, and she said, "Tell everyone." And that's what I did, and it really made a difference, especially since I have no family that lives around me, other than my husband, and my best friend was moving to San Diego. So it really became imperative that especially my work family, be available if I needed them, and they were there for me.
And it takes courage to ask, and it takes courage to tell, and it also takes courage to receive. I don't know if you find this as well, but a lot of the individuals that I either work with or know of that have gone through the breast cancer experience, they're usually the ones that are taking care of everyone but themselves.
Yes.
And this is a situation where it's so important for them to receive, and I see so many of them struggling with that.
Mm-hmm. And you can remain normal in a normal lifestyle and still ask for help. I think it's just a shift in attitude in asking for help, and then realizing, because at one point I was thinking, oh no, I don't really need people to cook for me or anything like that, realizing that it's their way of showing you how they feel about you, and also gives them a task to do, because they feel like they're helping.
Absolutely. They can't go through the treatment for you. They can't create a cure for you, but they can make a pretty good meatball sub for you.
Exactly. And on top of that, guess what? There's receiving on both ends.
Absolutely. The caretaker that also receives the love and support of the individual they're helping out.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
In the form of gratitude.
I think one of the interesting quotes that I've heard from you is that breast cancer doesn't define you. It frees you to arrive at different choices. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, what I believe is that when we put labels on ourselves, it creates a persona that really isn't all that helpful. When I was first starting to be coached, I thought of myself as a nurse, and I didn't get it from my coach what she meant. And again, I was walking down a hallway, and it's like, duh, I work as a nurse, and that's not who I am. And the same goes for having breast cancer, having diabetes, being a mom, being an empty nester, being a grandparent, a teenager. I mean, that all doesn't matter. That's not who you are. Who you are is what's inside you.
And I think we're so quick to add labels to ourselves, whether it's a role as a parent or a professional, or whether it's, this is one of my hot buttons, because there's so many people, I have allergies, or, you know, I have cancer, or I am, you know, they label and they own it, versus what I always try to encourage them to do is say, I'm experiencing this. So
Absolutely.
it's not you, but it's something, yeah, it's very true. You're experiencing it. It can be really sucky at sometimes, but it's not you. You know, it can leave. It will progress. It will move on. And I think that's something really important for people to understand. And I think this gets to your idea of freeing as you release that idea of you being a nurse, and it opened you up to new choices on how you could see who you were.
Yes, absolutely. Because it gave me, and what it also does for my clients is that it gives them like second thought. It's like, oh, okay. And so then they start working from that place instead of that label. And it just means so much more, and it makes sense.
Right. It completely frees you and allows you to, I think we put ourselves in boxes when we put labels on ourselves. And when we can remove those labels, then all of a sudden there's a whole world that's open to us. And I work with a lot of people also going through job transition, you know, that might be out of work. And I know it's especially hard for certain individuals that, you know, I've been a tax attorney for 30 years, and now all of a sudden their identity is gone. Mm-hmm. And for them to release that label can free themselves up to see what this next phase of their life really is all about.
Yes. One of my clients right now, she had that issue as well, because she had to quit work. She was a nurse, and it was just a struggle for her to give that label up, because it meant so much to her. She had accomplished that. She was proud of it. She knew others were proud of her and saw her skilled in that position. And yet, because she had to leave for health reasons, it just took her breath away and almost disabled her mentally as well as physically.
Right. That you just don't feel like you can move forward when you no longer know who you are or who you thought you were.
Yes, absolutely.
So, do you have any specific suggestions for newly breast cancer thrivers as to how to make the transition into their life after experiencing breast cancer?
Well, I have to go back to attitude, where there is there are the pros and cons that you have in your life, and you have to choose where you want to be. And sit down with that list and find where you fit. And if you fit in the cons, then maybe there's something in that con list that needs to be shifted to the pros. And I have a breast cancer ebook that people can download too that could help them if they feel the need to move forward and they're just kind of stuck.
And that's available on your website, correct?
It is available on my website.
And your website is?
courage2adventure.com. And that gets under the cancer ebook.
That's a wonderful resource for people to check out, and as they're working through this process and moving into something new.
Yes. And there are also some links there that they could find useful if they're in the beginning stages or middle stages of going through breast cancer recovery or any cancer recovery. Now,
you work with more than just breast cancer thrivers. You also work with other individuals that are in transition, the sandwich generation that I mentioned, the empty nesters, people going through divorce issues. What is it about transition? What do these individuals have in common that you normally see working with them, even though the circumstances may be different?
They all have one thing in common: stress. Stress and being overwhelmed. Any kind of situation where I think divorce is like number one or number two on the list of top 10 stressors in your life. And I've been through a divorce. My parents have both passed away. I have gone through breast cancer. So I've gone through an awful lot of stress to get where I am now, and I've learned a lot of things along the way. And in fact, I put together a program. I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but okay, it's called Discover the 8 Levels of Having It All Your Way. And when I started putting this together, because it just kind of came to me, it was like, oh, yeah, I've been through that. I've been through that. And so then it organically just grew from there. And you have to start from somewhere. And that's kind of where I started, especially after my divorce was actually more painful than my breast cancer, which I find quite interesting. It was more painful because it felt more personal than the breast cancer. And I had to sell my house. I moved in with my brother for a period of time. Then I got kicked out of his house because they were coming home from working internationally. Like, oh no, I have to go find a place to live. And there were all these steps that I had to take about getting back out there amongst people, amongst single people especially, and that was very scary for me. I also gained a lot of weight during that time because my self-esteem just hit a bottom, very low point, and my initial thing was to go to food. And so that's another piece of taking it personally, is that was a personal attack on me through my divorce, and I didn't know how to get out of that for quite some time. And then when I started putting one step in front of the other, then I realized, well, these steps are what everybody needs to take to get to the next level. And if I can, I'd like to just share with you the different levels that I have. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be terrific. I'd be really interested to hear about the different steps to take us from that low point, especially if it feels very personal, and to help us move forward. Because I think so many of us get caught up in addictions or ways that we hide, whether it's food or, some of the if they get into drinking, or some of the worst choices for managing the pain that we're feeling. So how do you get out of that cycle of, using bad tools to mask the pain and to actually help you move forward?
Well, to preface the program, each builds on the next level. And sometimes if you get into crisis, you may fall back into some of the other levels, which would be perfectly normal. So it's not to be afraid of doing that. Just like we might regress if we get admitted to a hospital. Like kids, if they're 10, they will regress to like a 5 or 6-year-old because it's such a stressful situation. That's where they felt safe. So with this program, it's like bare necessities is level 1. So getting the basics in. Level 2 is safety blanket, knowing that you're safe and you can take some risks in that safe place. Number 3 is holding from the heart. I don't know why I can never remember this, but it's building relationships. And then you go to something even stronger because you have those all behind you. You can go into knowledge seeker. That's the curiosity that can come out of you and kind of search out these things that you've been curious about. And travel, like you and I both have a passion for travel. Then it's all about me. And this is where I think a lot of people, especially women, kind of get stuck because they forget that it's all about them in the first place. And it's about putting up boundaries, even around little kids, because that's when you teach them that mommy needs time, that mommy and daddy need time.
And also that they need to be independent. If they keep seeking for help and getting, they don't learn to stand up and be independent. I think that was a really hot button one for me because I think there's so many women, especially, that give and give and give. And they don't realize the role model they're showing as far as being depleted. They don't realize how they're disempowering those people they're actually thinking that they're helping.
Right.
And I think it's just so important for us to focus on ourselves first. It's not being selfish.
Right.
If we don't eat, there's no way that we can feed someone else. We need to have the strength before we can help someone else. And so this is a really important step for people to move through and accept that they do need to take care of themselves first.
Right, exactly. And so maybe it's all about me is really all about you. So for me, it's kind of like I couldn't decide if it was me or you, but it's both. It's about the inner self and making space for you and knowing that you hold a space in the world that it matters. So then after that, it's the full package. So you're putting all those building blocks together and showing up in a place and like, wow, look at you. You look fantastic. You sound fantastic. You sound happy. You sound like you have your life all together. And then after that, it's the dream reached. This is where you have your dream set out there. For instance, if you loved art when you were a child, what happened to that along the way as you were becoming an adult? Did you leave it behind or did you take it with you? And are there other dreams or goals that you want to reach, but there just hasn't been either enough motivation to do it or enough kick in the butt to do it? And the top level is giving voice to others. So that's taking what you've learned behind you and then teaching others about it. Say a child, your child, a favorite niece, nephew, whatever, it gives you the chance of teaching someone else the basics. And in medicine, it's about see one, do one, teach one. And that's kind of what this focuses on as well. And when you are able to teach somebody else, there's that, again, like we were talking about before, about both receiving. So it becomes a we rather than a me and a me. So you still maintain or like our new leadership model at CTI, the Coaches Training Institute, is finding the me and we and finding the we in me. So we're all on this planet together. And when we are teaching others about how much potential that they have, it just creates a better world for all of us. Because who knows what you're teaching somebody else will have that trickle-down effect and affect somebody else. The impact just rockets exponentially.
Absolutely. And I also find in teaching others, it's usually a reminder for what I need to hear as well. So sometimes it can be very selfish that, I can see somebody who needs to learn a lesson that I've heard or that I've learned, but you know what? I kind of needed that reminder too. So it is that everything you're talking about is a very reciprocal process, which is very, very powerful. And I love that. I love the building block idea because I think a lot of times when we hit bottom, we want that magic pill to immediately fix us. And we're not ready to be immediately fixed. We need to go through the stages. We need to build ourselves back up. And, it's not something that can happen overnight, but if you do work at it and go through the stages, you can make incredible strides, which is fantastic.
Yes, yes. And I just feel like this is something so strongly that others can really make a difference in their lives. And that's part of the whole my leadership process, my coaching process, where I'm helping somebody else be because CTI teaches what's called coactive coaching. So it's about being and doing. And to do, you need to be. So when you're being, you need to know what you need to do. If you don't be, you can't move forward faster because you really don't, you haven't created that, coach term, intention, or created a space for making it happen. So you don't build a structure or a plan to get there.
Well, I truly appreciate you being with us here today, Sue, and sharing your 8 levels and how it helps breast cancer thrivers and many others going through different transitions to get from that low point and to start rebuilding themselves, like Steve Austin, stronger, better, tougher.
Absolutely.
And then to pay it forward, to continue your growth by also training and helping others, which I think is such a beautiful sentiment. So thank you so much for sharing and for all the wonderful work that you do.
Oh, thank you. So Melissa, I want to offer to your listeners the opportunity to get into my program. And this is going to be a scholarship program for my Discover the 8 Levels of Having It All Your Way. So the first 5 people that contact me, whether it be for individual sessions or the group program that will be starting in the fall, they can get 50% off.
Okay, and we'll have your email and your phone number or right below on the screen or in the blog post, so you'll see those. And it's a terrific offer, Sue. I encourage everybody to take advantage of this, and I know that this will be online for quite some time. Don't assume that all 5 have been taken, so reach out and contact Sue whenever you hear this episode, and hopefully you'll be one of the lucky 5. And thanks again for being on the show, Sue, and keep up the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much for letting me be on your show.
My pleasure.
Join Melissa Heisler next week right here at